Hello, welcome to my channel. I thought I'd have another attempt at painting with palette knives, and I quite like the way this picture turned out. I started with paste on my palette and three shades of blue: French ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, and permanent light, I think the other one is. And I thought I'd start off with the sky, work my way down from the top of the canvas to the bottom of the canvas. That's the way I usually go. And not be too fussy about how I applied it, but try to apply it in horizontal strokes. Now, I want to say right here, watch somebody else if you want to know how to handle palette knives, because I am so new to them. I really don't know what I'm doing. If I get anything out at the end, I'm very, very happy, but I don't know if I've done it in the proper way. I quite like the picture that I ended up with here, although I will say that it doesn't have as many subtle colors in it as I usually like to have. It seems to me that if I'm trying something new, half of what I know flies out the window, and I'm lucky with having anything left to make a painting. So this painting is not in any way subtle. The greens really take over the painting, but I quite like how I got depth in the painting. I like the look of the trees. I'm not too keen on the lake in the distance, but I've completely forgot to put birds in. And the other thing I'll say is I did this picture that I have in my head. It's one I've done many times before. It's easy. I don't have to think about composition. I just have to think about getting the paint and paste on the canvas. And that's all I'm interested in at the moment, is trying to have a result that I'm happy with using palette knives. I did bring the sky down 2/3 of the way and then changed my mind later and made the lower half of the sky into countryside, hillside. I don't know what you call it, grass. Let's call it grass. I added sap green to my palette. I think it's quite a natural looking green. I use it for trees, grass, any place I need scrubby stuff. And it's a good color for a mid-tone. I find I can add French ultramarine blue and get a nice shadow tone. I can add primary yellow and titanium white and get a nice highlight. So sap green is one of my favorites to paint with. I added raw sienna to my palette for the foreground, and you can see I'm not messing around. I'm just putting color on quite crudely. If it gets mixed, it's because I have another paint on my palette knife, or there is something on the canvas that it's mixing in with. I'm not doing any color mixing on my palette before I apply the paint. I do not know where my brain was at this time. But like I say, I'm quite pleased with the end result. I do find it a bit very, I do find it very crudely green. But I don't know why, I just like it. I've done this view before, straight out of my imagination, but it's one that shows the different elements that you can get into a picture, which will give you depth. It shows two trees in the foreground, one on either side of the canvas, and they throw a shadow, and then beyond the shadow you see the view. You see the lake, you see the hills, you see part of the sky, and it gives you a lot to do in a painting. It gives you shadow, highlight, shadow on the ground, highlight on the trunk and branches and leaves. And like I say, it gives you a lot to do in a painting, and you can explore. I rarely paint individual leaves unless I'm doing something like a rose flower, hydrangea, or berries, something like that, where you see everything very close up. For trees, I put on what I think of as a midtone. Today, I'm a bit muddled about that. I put on a shadow, which is the midtone mixed down, usually with French ultramarine blue, sometimes with raw umber, and then I put a highlight on, which is usually a yellow mixed with titanium white, or sometimes on its own, and then titanium white on top of that for an extra highlight. But you don't see the individual leaves of the tree. Not in my paintings, at any rate. I'm thinking of this as a lake, but it could just as easily be an ocean inlet with cliffs beyond. You can decide for yourself what you think it is. I'm putting on primary yellow as a highlight on the top of the foliage, and I put some on the tree trunks as well. A good color for the tree trunks, and I think I don't do it in this picture, is Naples yellow. It's a very sunny color. It makes great for sunspots on the ground, highlights on branches, not so much on foliage. I think the primary yellow is better on foliage. And sometimes to make it even brighter, I will put titanium white on top of that. because you know how when sometimes you look at leaves, they look as though they're white, don't they, in the sunshine, but they're not actually. I'm putting the paint on quite thickly. I've forgotten all about the paste at this point, and I find it a little tedious to mix the paste in, and the paste changes the colour of the paint. So I'm reluctant to do that. I use a fan brush for scrubby ground, for weedy areas. I turn it on its edge for taller things and use it flat on for anything that's quite short, like short grasses, tall weeds. I turn it on its edge. That's the best way I can explain it, but it's a very useful tool. I love my fan brush. I've got to say, I do enjoy painting with a palette knife. I might not be doing it the right way, or I might, I'm not sure what's going on. But I love the thickness of the paint with the paste in it. And I love the textured surface of the canvas once I've done one of these paintings. It gives me a sense of satisfaction. I really got all the paint on there that I can get on there. I'm not happy with my colors at the moment. I think I can do better. And I usually end up with a brush in my hand, brushing on things. But let's say I enjoy it at the moment, and I'll get better at it, I hope. I'm putting these little sailboats on the water to lead your eye into the painting. I usually put birds in for the same effect, somewhere in the center, flying towards the outer reaches, let's say, or flying toward the horizon line. But I forgot to do that today. And so we're relying on the sailboats to lead our eye into the picture. A good way to take off colour if you've got too much on in a certain place is to use a damp brush. No colour paint in it, just water, but not too much water. And you can just brush it off. You can use damp paper towel too, but then you've got to be more careful because you haven't got the fine tip of the brush. I like to use a brush for this job. I ended up dabbing Naples yellow on the trunks of the trees because I prefer that for a highlight on tree trunks, and I put it on the ground in front of the trees too, as sunny patches peeping through. I'm not sure I was that successful with that. But I think this painting does have distance in it. You are looking across fields to a lake or bay. You can see boats in the distance. I've managed to get distance into my painting, and I'm pleased when I can do that. And overall, I'm quite pleased with it. I managed to pull off something that looks reasonable with palette knives, which I'm not that familiar with. So that's a good day in my book. And I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please try and find time to give me a like and subscribe. That helps my channel grow. I'd be very grateful for that. And thank you to everyone who's already done that. That's been so helpful to me. I really appreciate you for doing that for me. And I'll see you next time. Actually, next time will be poppies in pen and watercolor. So bye for now.